I did my final report on the American correctional system versus the Norwegian correctional system. Right here on the left is a picture where Norway is located near the Norwegian Sea and the North Sea. And also on the right, top right, is the Norwegian flag, and the bottom right is the American flag. Norway is a smaller country located in the Scandinavian peninsula near Finland, where I just showed you. Home to one of the most productive correctional systems in the world, with a low recidivism rate of about 20% compared to the United States of 76, and 20% is probably one of the lower ones in the world, where 76 is on the high side. The history of the Norwegian correctional system: in 1968, Norwegian Association for Criminal Reform created the KRAM. The KRAM focused on restorative justice and rehabilitation towards the inmates. In 1975, the KRAM eliminated all juvenile delinquency facilities, and it made it to where you had to be 15 years or older in order to be charged with a crime. American versus Norwegian correctional ideologies. Norway and America both aim towards restorative justice and rehabilitation towards the inmates. Also, Norway is more lenient when it comes to punishment compared to America, due to the fact that Norway believes life in prison should be similar to life on the outside as a normal citizen, whereas American, they still use capital punishments and life sentences. Norway only contains 43 jails in the country that contain less than 4,000 inmates, and the maximum sentence that an offender is allowed to receive is 21 years. Whereas in America, they have over 102 federal prisons to house inmates, over 2.3 million inmates between the prisons and jails, and they use life sentences of 25 years without parole, which means the inmate could stay there for the rest of their lives and not have a chance to see the outside of the walls again. Intermediate sanctions in Norway and America. Other than prison, Norway will occasionally use community sentencing, where an individual must work a certain amount of hours unpaid, which is similar to the community service that America uses as well, where you have to work hours without getting paid. America also uses probation, where an offender, they'll either just be released from jail or they'll be placed on probation instead of going to jail, and they have an officer that a probation officer they must report to, and they might have to do mandatory drug tests or random alcohol tests, as well as take any alcohol or drug courses. Custody functions in Norway. This picture right here is a picture of a cell in Halden Prison, which is a high security prison in Norway, which is a lot different than what it looks like for a jail cell in America, where inmates are allowed to garden, cook, enjoy a state-of-the-art basketball facility and a nice weight room. Inmates in Norwegian prisons also roam around the facility at free will without little overseeing by the guards. This right here on the right is a picture of an American jail cell, which is a lot worse than a maximum security prison in Norway. The inmates in these American prisons are only allowed to eat lunch and have free time at a certain time every day of the week, and they are allowed to interact with other inmates, but they're in a confined area surrounded by guards most of the time. Treatments used for inmates in Norway and America. Norwegian inmates are allowed to garden, cook, tend to animals, and attend vocational schools. The United States offers educational training to obtain a GED and attend college courses, and both countries receive medical health care while incarcerated. So if the inmates were to get sick or have cancer or have a baby, they would be taken care of. Gender treatment. Norway before 2015 favored the guys more than they favored the female inmates, to where the female inmates wouldn't have proper sanitary tools that they need to be okay in life. Women obtained equal rights to men during the civil rights movement in America back in the 70s and 80s. Special category offenders. Norwegian and American prisons do extensive evaluations of all inmates coming into the prisons. Both countries offer extensive medical help through counseling, doctors, and medicine to treat these inmates. Norway wins the battle due to continuing to provide free health care after an inmate is released. Inmates in America have zero rights or privacy once they're convicted, whereas in Norway, the inmates will contain most of their rights, such as the right to be able to vote. And American offenders will not even retain all their rights for years to come after being released, such as being allowed to vote, being allowed to own a firearm, being able to land certain jobs and certain positions due to having a felony or the misdemeanor on their record. Norway does not use the parole system. Instead, they receive a maximum sentence of 21 years, and if the government does not feel that they are ready to reintegrate back into society, then they will receive another 5-year sentence. And they will keep receiving these 5-year sentences up until the parole or the government feels that they are okay to return back into society. Whereas America offers parole if that's allowed by the judge. And before the inmate is released on parole in America, they must go in front of a parole board to a parole hearing and determine and convince that the parole board that they are changed and rehabilitated and are allowed to return back into society.